Today we're going to make a bow that slows nearby enemies when it's drawn back, thus giving you more time to line up your shot before enemies close in. After that, we'll create a staff that launches creepers into the air. And we're going to do that using filters. So, what filters are is that they change the context in which conditions and effects are executed under. Why don't I build the item and then I'll explain it. So, for this bow that slows nearby enemies, first we'll need the condition of while the bow is being drawn, drawing a bow. So then we can run our filter, executed as all nearby monsters. Let's say the range is going to be 20 blocks. And then the effect is going to be minus movement speed of minus 60%. Alright, these zombies are walking towards us, but if we draw the bow, we can see the zombies slow down significantly. So the reason this works is because of this filter right here. When we draw the bow, we run a filter that executes as all nearby monsters. So then everything that happens inside of this filter, if it's a condition, it'll check against that entity instead of against the player wielding the item. And if it's an effect, it'll affect that entity instead of affecting the player wielding the item. So this plus movement speed, or minus movement speed rather, inside the filter means that it's not going to give me minus movement speed for wielding the bow, it's going to give the nearby monsters. You know what, let's create that second item here. We're going to create a staff that launches nearby creepers into the air. Okay. So the condition is going to be used carrot on a stick, which is in the miscellaneous section. Cooldown, we will select how long we want the cooldown to be. We're going to say we can use this staff once every second. Alright, so then the filter, filter, executed as all nearby monsters. And let's do 20 blocks. Executed as all nearby monsters. Then we're going to need to put a condition that checks that this is a creeper. Monster is of type. You notice that there's fewer options here when you're filtering on a monster, because monsters don't have as much things you can check against. Monster is of type creeper. There we go. And then we can do the effect of flinging it into the air. I think this is under special attacks. Yes. Launch upwards with a launch force of, I really don't know. I'll just try 200 and see how that works. So, creeper. And we got a zombie. Did you see if we activate it? Whoa, that is real high. Are you gonna come down again? Alright, well, it sent him flying regardless, so we know it worked. And you notice it didn't send the zombie flying. That's because, I'll explain the item start to finish. So the condition used carrot on a stick. This is used for, carrot on a stick is one of the few items with a right-click function. Then it filters on all nearby monsters. So everything inside of this filter will be checking against the nearby monsters instead of against the player who used the carrot on a stick. So then we check that that nearby monster, is a creeper and not some other monster type. And we gave that creeper the effect of launching it upwards. So filters significantly expand the range of possible things we can do with ItemBuilder items. There's one more filter that's kind of the odd man out, executed on item equip slot. This is used for, let's create another example item. We're going to create a bow that disarms skeletons. This is a favorite item of mine. Credit to BSM for this one, because it's a fantastic alternative to shields, shields have a bit of a tendency to slow down gameplay, and this Disarming Bow lets you still deal with skeletons in a fair manner. So, let's do condition, dealt damage with an arrow. Okay, so then we're going to add the filter, executed as monsters that just took damage. We'll have a limited range. So this is kind of an interesting filter. Basically, it's meant to be paired with the dealt damage condition, and it'll filter by monsters that just took damage with the damage you dealt with that arrow. One thing to note here is that it's not necessarily a one-to-one correlation. In other words, it's possible that this will trigger on monsters that just happen to take damage at the same time that you dealt damage with an arrow. That can happen, but it doesn't happen often enough to be a problem, I think. So just keep that in mind, that it can occasionally affect a monster that you didn't hit with the arrow. but pretty rarely. Okay, so next we need to do another filter. This is the slot filter. So this first filter changed the entity context. We are changing which entity we're talking about. This filter will change what equip slot we're talking about. Now normally the equip slot we talk about is whatever slot the item is in. So if we're holding this bow in our main hand, whenever we are using an effect that cares about an item slot, such as the one we'll be using, which is to destroy the item, cause it to break, normally it'll cause the item itself to break. So for example, if you would have the effect item breaks, the item would break itself because it's talking about its own item slot. But if we want to talk about a specific item slot, such as armor or specifically main hand, we're going to need to use this filter here. All right, so now that we have specified that we're filtering on the monster that just took damage from our arrow, and that we want to talk about the main hand, we can now do a condition to check against that main hand item. See, we only want to destroy crossbows and bows. We don't want to destroy swords. So let's, okay, item is of type. We're going to select bow. And then the effect, finally, is going to be item breaks. And then if we want to do crossbows and tridents as well, we can use the duplicate button there to easily duplicate it and get the other two types. And there we go. Explain it from the beginning. When we deal damage with an arrow, we will filter on the monsters that just took damage from that arrow. Then we will specify the equip slot of main hand. Then we'll check with these three conditions to make sure it's either a bow, a crossbow, or a trident. If it is one of those three types, we will break the item. It will cause it to disarm. So let's try it in game. First skeleton. If you can see, if we shoot it, it breaks. Now it's going to try and melee us. Now if we try it on a pillager, you can see it disarmed it. Pillagers are kind of weird though that they don't have a melee attack, so they'll just turn passive if they don't have a crossbow because they have no idea how to attack you with only a melee weapon. But yeah, there we go. So there's 3 items that you can only create using filters, and I'll probably make another video down the line that shows more advanced uses of filters with the tick counter. That's it. See you in the next video.